Security configurations for Azure SQL Managed Instance should also be implemented as part of the deployment process, not as an afterthought. Whatever we discussed in the earlier Azure SQL database walkthrough is applicable in this case as well. Let's see what different options that we see during deployment. When provisioning a SQL Managed instance, you are also prompted to configure the authentication method and a Microsoft Entra admin. These settings work just like they do for Azure SQL databases, which will ensure consistent identity-based access and centralized control. Setting this up during deployment helps enforce secure access from the start. You must place SQL Managed instance in a dedicated subnet within an Azure virtual network. Azure will auto-configure the necessary network security group and route table. The subnet gets delegated to Microsoft.SQL managed instances. This is different thing as compared to Azure SQL database. In Azure SQL database, you can create the private endpoint during the deployment. Here we have to dedicate a subnet to the SQL managed instance. On the security tab, you will find options that are very similar to those available for Azure SQL databases. You can enable Microsoft Defender for SQL for threat protection. You can configure manage identity for secure access. And you can enable transparent data encryption to protect data at rest. Once the SQL Managed instance is deployed, you can continue with other security and data protection configuration just like you would with a regular Azure SQL database. And that's a quick walkthrough of SQL Managed instance setup.